We're here today to highlight the devastating impacts President Trump's tariffs are having on small businesses across the country. As we'll hear today, our small business owners are struggling in President Trump's economy. Since the beginning of the year, electricity costs are up. Food prices are up. The cost of health care is going up. We have lost tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs. And at the heart of it are President Trump's crushing tariffs. Just to give you a comparison, during the Biden administration, we added 700,000 new jobs in manufacturing to the American economy. 700,000 new manufacturing jobs under President Biden. Since the Trump tariffs have been imposed, we have lost 42,000 manufacturing jobs in our country, and that's just since the beginning of April. The Trump tariffs are really just Trump. The Trump tariffs are really just Trump taxes on small businesses. It's Robin Hood in reverse. It's just taking from the poor and the middle class and our small businesses and giving it to the rich. President Trump took a strong economy and made it weak. He has turned Main Street into Pain Street. And as a result, small businesses are suffering. Since his so-called Liberation Day on April 2nd, President Trump has claimed that the rest of the world would pay these tariffs. But we know who's paying them right now. They're standing right next to Senator Klobuchar and Senator Hirono and myself. It's our small business owners. Even the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, said just yesterday that these tariffs are largely being paid by American importers, not exporters from other countries. To hide the failing state of his economy, President Trump has been making up numbers and following the 3 Ds: divert, distract, and deceive. But today we are exposing the truth. Since March of 2025, small businesses have paid more than $30 billion, or 1/3 of all of Trump's tariffs thus far. President Trump should put a big sign in front of his new White House ballroom that says, "Sponsored by America's small businesses," because they're paying for that new ballroom. This is not a red state or a blue state issue. The data I'm releasing today shows that small businesses in California, Texas, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Minnesota, Hawaii are paying the most in Trump's tariffs. My Republican colleagues need to have conviction during this time and stand up for small businesses. But instead, Republicans are blocking Congress from reining in President Trump's disastrous tariffs. I'm not going to back down. We're not going to back down. We're going to continue to stand up for small businesses who are bearing the burden of these tariffs. We must pass the Small Business Relief Act now to exempt all small businesses from the tariffs and provide them with the refunds from the Department of Treasury for the tariffs which those small businesses have already paid. So I'm proud to have this legislation already endorsed by Main Street Alliance, National Small Business Association, Small Business for America's Future, Small Business Majority, Women Impacting Public Policy, and Cameo. Small business should never have been a part of this terrible policy, and they cannot wait for the Supreme Court to catch up. We have to give them the relief right now. They work week to week, month to month. They don't work on the schedule of the court system of our country. That's why we need to pass this legislation now. So let me turn now and introduce our great leader, Senator Amy Klobuchar from the state of Minnesota. Welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Markey, and thank you for your just leadership here always, but in this very important moment. And the fact that we all, Mazie and I, were saying how much we like this chart because it actually lays it out. What did you call the Main Street to Pain Street? Another great Markeyism, by the way. And it shows right here I was looking at Minnesota, which is carrying more than its weight, which I was explaining to Ed. We have like 5 million people, and there we are. Because we have a lot of small businesses that make stuff, that invent things, that export to the world. We're part of a major farm economy, and Minnesota overall is 4th in the nation for ag exports, so that's part of it. And then, like Massachusetts, we do a lot when it comes to high-end manufacturing, medical device, those kinds of things. All of this is getting hit because even if we have some big companies that do it, the small companies are part of this supply chain. And then we also have, like Hawaii and Massachusetts, major tourism that isn't even really even showing up there because tourism is just getting socked by this, especially in my state where we're in next to Canada. We can see Canada from our porch, and the tourism numbers are just plummeting from Canada and from elsewhere in the country. So I have met with a number of my small business people and have just heard the same thing. The owner of a brewery in Moorhead, Minnesota on the North Dakota border, who said tariffs are raising costs for inputs like aluminum and hops. People come up to me in airports and on the street, and a number of these brewery people have come up. I guess that's all we do in Minnesota. I don't know. But they are like heavy time seeing this, and one said they're barely holding on. Soybean farmers worried about losing markets. They spent generations building business. They literally don't have markets right now, and so we're going to see a crisis coming our way. I said it here first. Businesses in the tourism industry, as I mentioned, 20% fall in visitors, and the U.S. stands to lose $30 billion in international tourism dollars a year. Just to give you a sense of it, in the first half of 2025, the U.S. welcomed about 1 million fewer international visitors compared to 2024. Canadian arrivals dropped nearly 20% in the first half of 2025, down by over 1.75 million visitors year over year. Minnesota is a home of a lot of small businesses in a place called the Mall of America, and the Canadians just love going there, Ed, and they're just not coming. And so this is a big problem. It's almost an individual protest against this administration, what's happening. So what are we doing? Well, we're fighting back with Ed's bill, which is fantastic because it acknowledges that it is small businesses that are the roadkill. They don't have the extra resources or rainy day funds to be able to handle this. We're fighting back with other legislation like Senator Kaine in my bill with Canada and some of the other things that would reverse the tariffs. We're fighting back in the courts. It's small businesses that are leading the way in a number of these lawsuits in court. And in the first round, the international court composed of a judge that was a Trump judge, a Reagan judge, they still exist, and an Obama judge reversed the tariff, said the word IEPA doesn't even have tariff in its legislation, that bill. And then when it went up to the Court of Appeals, that was also opinion saying the tariffs were wrong and they're not legal, and now it's heading to the Supreme Court. So that's a big, big deal involving the businesses and the small businesses. So we are standing with our constituents. So I always remind people, Congress, courts, constituents, and these are some incredible constituents who are willing to come to Washington to make this case. So thank you. I may have to leave a little early, Ed, but we are turning it over to the wonderful Senator Hirono, who knows a few things about small businesses. Thanks.
Aloha, everybody. I'm glad to join my colleagues as well as representatives and owners of small businesses here. You know, the only people who are doing well in the Trump economy is President Trump and his family and the billionaires who are getting a huge tax break and what I call the big ugly bill. The rest of us are having to face higher costs in everything that we consume, buy, use. So, of course, tariffs, like so much of what President Trump does, chaos ensues. So on again, off again tariffs, waiting around for the Supreme Court to ultimately decide whether these tariffs are legal. We have lower courts that have already said that these tariffs are illegal. So meanwhile, you have, as you can see in this chart, all these businesses who are already being impacted negatively and having to pay the costs of the tariffs. So, we often talk about small businesses as the backbone of our economy, and yet we have a president who really doesn't give a rip about the impact of the kind of actions that he's taking. So, let me just mention a couple of small businesses in Hawaii who are seeing the results of this kind of chaotic actions by the president. Amy mentioned brewers in Minnesota. Well, in Hawaii, we have Maui Brewing Company, Hawaii's largest craft brewery, and it was one of the many businesses facing the heavy burden of these policies. And I was just told that there's yet another tariff that is being imposed, and that was put in place, they were told, a day ago, and they're going to have to put it into effect a day later. How can a business keep going with these kinds of actions? So anyway, Maui Brewing already faced a 50% tariff on aluminum cans imports, and the Department of Commerce, again, just recently added aluminum can ends and lids to the list of aluminum and steel tariffs. So they are unable to produce these materials domestically. And Maui Brewing and many other companies have no other places other than to, no other recourse other than to adjust their business model to fit the Trump increased taxes, which gets passed on to the consumers. So another company, Hawaii Chip Company, there's a person there named Jimmy Chan, and he literally started the Hawaiian Chip Company in his little apartment, bagging chips in his apartment. Well, he's been able to grow his business, but on the other hand, now the tariffs have raised the costs of the plastic bags and glass bottles that his company uses, and so Jimmy has had no choice but to increase prices and risk losing business. So Trump promised to lower costs on day one, and that's not what happened at all. And in fact, what we're seeing is just ever-increasing costs of everything. And I might mention that one of my favorite restaurants in Hawaii is closing because the owner said with everything that's going on, this whole on-again, off-again tariffs, any business that relies on imports for their food, their restaurant business, et cetera. Anyway, the restaurant owner said he's had it. It's the last straw. This business, a favorite restaurant for so many of us, a Chinese restaurant, is closing. So this is what's happening, and that is why the bills that Senator Markey, Senator Klobuchar, and I have introduced, and others, will provide some relief for the millions of small businesses in our country who are taking it in the neck with these tariffs. So now we're going to hear from some of our businesses. We're starting with LeGrand? LeGrand?
Yes.
Okay, is that you? Come on over.
From Milton.
Oh, you're still here.
No, yeah, I will. I'm going to hear.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm LeGrand Lindor, owner of LMI Textiles from Milton, Massachusetts. Our business, we distribute harm reduction products, so things like needles, medical supplies to health departments and organizations nationwide. And our major client is AHOPE in Boston for the Boston Public Health Commission. As we know, this is critical public health work that saves lives, reduces harms, prevents infection and disease. But now that's in jeopardy because of the tariffs that we're facing. One of our most recent shipments came in from France, and we had a $15,000 tariff bill just in August. That's for the same exact products that used to cost us $4,000 from before February. That's about a 300% increase overnight that we weren't expecting. On top of that, we got blindsided this year earlier with the $5,000 surprise tax bill in May for a shipment that came in February. So we definitely weren't expecting that 3 months later happening to our business. The unpredictable tariffs Changes have completely shifted how we do business. We were looking to open up a warehouse in Massachusetts, and we had to curb that for a little bit as we're trying to figure out our fiscal situation now. Our European supplier used to handle all the customs and duty paperwork for us, but now we're taking on that on our side, which has, adds another administrative burden to our small team to handle those things. Excuse me. We are getting squeezed on medical products as well, so we import some items from Asia, but also when we're buying from American companies, they're manufacturing in Asia, that also increases our costs. Because we have a lot of city and health department clients, we have contracts where we aren't able to increase our prices and things of that nature. So we have to take on the full burden. Our manufacturers abroad aren't taking on those burdens, which sets it on us wholly. We don't have the cash reserves that big corporations have to absorb these kind of sudden policy changes. And now with the de minimis exemption gone, even more small businesses are grappling with same crushing costs and confusing paperwork burdens. Small businesses like mine shouldn't have to choose between serving our communities and staying afloat, as we'll hear from other small businesses here today. This is why I'm encouraged to see the legislation like the Small Business Relief Act, which would not only exempt us, small businesses, from these tariffs, but actually refund us for what we've already paid and been forced to pay. We need lawmakers to pass this bill. It could be a lifeline that small businesses desperately need to recover and keep serving our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear from Nicole McDonald, CEO of Sashbag. Wonderful.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole McDonald, and I'm from San Diego, California. And I am the founder and the CEO of the Sashbag, which is this right here. I've been running my company for 13 years, and in just the last 2 months, we have been forced to pay $67,000 in unplanned tariffs. I also have thousands of units of production that is completed, ready, sitting at factories, waiting to get imported, but I would need $370,000 to pay the tariffs to get that product into the US, so I can't do it. Additionally, we have inventory that's at a fulfillment center in Canada, and as we've already discussed, Canadians are not super happy to shop with American companies right now, so I want to move that inventory from Canada down to the US. But in order to do that, because of the country of origin, I'm going to have to pay $100,000 in tariffs to move my own product that I've owned for 2 years from location A to location B. So clearly, this is not sustainable. It is not fair, especially because small business owners, we're actually paying more tariffs. Because we produce in small batches, our costs are higher. So we're the ones that are taking on the burden. I actually have had to lay off half my staff this year, and as a small business, half your staff, makes a huge difference, and I really want to hire those people back. Would love to hire those people back, but I cannot because the money I'm spending in tariffs. So clearly we need to do something right away. This is not a long-term plan. We need relief immediately because we need our products, we need our people, and there's just not enough money to pay for everything. Thanks.
So again, these stories just are so powerful. And again, I was in Congress in 1977. I voted for the law, the Emergency Economic Act in 1977. And believe me, no one was mentioning tariffs as a power which the Congress was handing over to the president, indifferent to what the Congress might want to impose as tariffs. That was never a debate. So this is going to go up to the Supreme Court, but we don't know what the Supreme Court is ultimately going to decide. This is a different Supreme Court, and they're aggregating more and more power into the hands of the executive branch. And that's why we need the legislation, in order to make sure that Congress reclaims its authority, to make sure these tariffs are not imposed, and that there's a rebate that's given to these small businesses who otherwise are laying off people, not able to expand, have a cloud of uncertainty over their heads. So next, we're going to hear from Rachel Rosner, owner of the Eldon Street Tea Shop. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator Markey, for having me back. And I'm happy to give you an update on how things are going for us. Good morning. I'm Rachel Rosner. I'm the owner of Eldon Street Tea Shop, located in Reston, Virginia. For nearly 8 years, I've built a business rooted in connection, culture, and community through tea. We import premium loose leaf teas from around the world and offer over 200 blends at our shop. We serve customers at our cafe, host private afternoon tea parties, supply tea wholesale to other small businesses nationwide. We also create custom blends, lead educational tea classes, and started and continued to organize the Northern Virginia Tea Festival. Tea isn't just what we sell. It's also how we build relationships, promote wellness, and create a movement of calm in a busy world. The tea my customers rely on cannot be grown here. It takes 5 to 7 years to establish a viable tea crop, as you probably know in Hawaii. And there is no commercial scale production in the United States to support even a fraction of the industry. Tea shops like mine depend on international sourcing, and tariffs are making that impossible. September 21st is National Chai Day, a celebration of culture, connection, and flavor rooted in Indian tea traditions. Right now, I should be placing my annual tea order of over 700 pounds of Indian tea. That tea alone makes up 40% of my entire inventory. However, I cannot do so because of the 50% tariff on Indian origin tea, which would force me to either incur the devastating loss or pass the astronomical price along to my customers. Either choice would break my business. Tea is one of 4 beverages recognized by the FDA as a healthy choice. It contains no sugars, supports hydration, and has been consumed for centuries as part of a wellness-focused lifestyle. Including tea in the sweeping tariff action sends a deeply confusing message and punishes Americans who are already making better health choices. To Republican lawmakers, step up and vote to end the tariffs. We are the backbone of America. We are the job creators, taxpayers, and community builders. This policy does not protect America, it punishes American businesses. I am proud to stand here today with Senator Markey and his colleagues, Senator Klobuchar and Senator Hirono, for the Small Business Relief Act, which would expedite repayment of tariffs to American small businesses should the Supreme Court rule in our favor that President Trump's overstep of his authority under the law. I urge Senator Majority Leader Thune and members of the body schedule the Small Business Relief Act for a vote today. Expedite the tariff repayment to small businesses if the Supreme Court rules in our favor. Support us now and do your job. Tariffing tea is un-American. In fact, at my shop, I have a sign that says, "The last time tea was taxed, there was a revolution." I call on Congress and the White House, provide immediate relief for small businesses hurt by these tariffs. Without swift action, shops like mine may not survive this trade policy. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Great job. And again, just coming back to Nicole, you've already paid $100,000. Is it?
67 already.
67,000.
There's another 470,000 that I will have to pay if I want to move any of my products.
Yeah. And then that means you can't hire more people. That means you're laying off people. Right. And so that's a hidden, Trump is wondering, why is unemployment going up in America? And I think a lot of the answer is standing right here.
He's not good with numbers.
He's not good. Unless it benefits his own family. Then he understands it very clearly. Next, we're going to hear from Nunzio De Filippis, co-owner of Cargo Trans. Welcome.
Good morning, all. Thank you for having me here today. I'm Nunzio De Filippis. I'm the co-CEO of Cargo Trans. and we are headquartered in New York. I'm a licensed customs broker, which means I'm on the front lines with helping to navigate this global trade. And as a licensed customs broker, we're the one that has to deliver the bad news to all these business owners here because we're preparing those tariff bills. And the last time I had a good night's sleep was the day before Liberation Day. That's because I've been up 24 hours, 7 days a week, listening to these small business owners and importers that are shouldering these, excessive tariffs. I could tell you they're in a state of shock. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to bring in their next order, and it's really, really significantly impacted many of our customers. We've been able to, at CargoTrans, support our customers with some tariff mitigation strategies, but it's clearly not enough. And I can tell you the past few days, I did a little pulse survey with some of our customers and small business owners and asked them, how have the tariffs affected them? And I have a few quotes here. One small business owner said, "We've had to push back hiring and operations, PR, and social media just to manage the added tariff costs." Another importer said, "Our sales are down 25 to 30% in most markets. We've had to lay off employees, cut R&D, and cancel trade shows. It's a ripple effect across the business." Yesterday, on my commute from Long Island to Manhattan, spoke to another one of our most important customers, and they said they had $1 million budgeted this year to hire for growth plans. They've done zero hiring. That $1 million is vanished by the tariffs. So there's been many halted investments in the U.S., and unlike the big organizations, small businesses just don't have the resources to weather this. And really, all of this uncertainty is killing the small businesses. So I'm here today with a message from dozens of our customers, and they've asked me to please do what I can to support them to get some relief today, to get this bill passed. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it. So again, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. Prices go up for consumers, and businesses aren't hiring or laying off people. Higher inflation, higher unemployment. We see it every night. Stagflation is what it's called. And right here, we see it and why it's happening. And the tariffs are the central culprit, and ultimately you are the biggest victims because you don't have the same flexibility as big businesses do. Next, we're going to hear from Julie Rothaus, CEO of Cine Voice. Welcome.
Hi, Senator. Okay, I need glasses for this. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Rothaus. I'm the founder of Cine Voice, a government consulting firm here in the DMV, and I'm also the chair emerita of the board of the Women Impacting Public Policy Education Institute. On behalf of Women Impacting Public Policy, we applaud Senator Markey for introducing the Small Business Relief Act. The introduction of this legislation is timely as small businesses across the country are faced with rising costs and uncertainty resulting from tariffs. Tariffs are increasing costs for government contractors across sectors, as we see here today, forcing firms to absorb higher input prices or negotiate difficult contract adjustments, which can threaten contract performance, delivery schedules, and even lead to canceled orders. Tariffs don't just raise costs for small businesses, they also drive many into costly short-term loans. Small importers often have to turn to high-interest financing from lending startups just to cover inventory costs, putting them at even greater financial risk. This dynamic creates a vicious cycle. Tariffs shrink margins, while expensive loans erode what little profit is left. Without relief, many small businesses are being pushed out of the market entirely. The Small Business Relief Act is critical because it would help level the playing field. Large corporations can absorb tariffs or negotiate better financing terms. Small businesses cannot. They must choose between eating the costs themselves, as we've heard today, or passing them on to their customers and risking the loss of business. This legislation gives small firms the breathing room they need to survive and compete. Small businesses are innovative and resilient, but they cannot thrive under the double burden of uncertainty and tariffs. By passing this bill, Congress would be protecting the backbone of our economy from being crushed by forces beyond their control. Thank you.
And finally, before Senator Hirono and I answer questions, Rebecca Melsky, co-founder of Princess Awesome. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Melsky, one of the co-founders of Princess Awesome. My business partner and I saw a need in the children's clothing market for girls' items with dinosaurs, rocket ships, trains, and trucks. We wanted clothes that reflected our girls' interests, so we built our company to make them. Over the past 12 years, we've grown Princess Awesome into an e-commerce store stocking manufactured products from factories around the world. We have served over 65,000 customers and make many different types of clothes, not just for girls, but for all kids and adults too, because pretty much everyone wants to wear clothes with dinosaurs and dragons and rocket ships. I am here today because President Trump's tariffs have put my business in a precarious financial position. First, let's be very clear. Other countries do not pay tariffs on goods imported into America. American businesses pay them. I pay them. We pay them. I expect to pay taxes and customs fees as part of running my business. I plan for them. I build them into my budgets. But there was no way I could have planned for the massive tax increase of President Trump's tariffs. So far this year, I have paid an additional $24,000 due to Trump's tariffs. For a very small business like mine, with only 2 full-time employees, that is a massive additional tax burden to be sprung on us. We've had to cut our salaries, cut production, and we've started to raise prices because we cannot absorb this expense. Now we look to the future and try to plan, knowing that Trump could change the tariff rate on any country at any time for however long he wants. Which country will be the next target of his ire? And even if the tariffs just remain as they are now, our entire business model is upended with our costs of goods increasing 10 to 30% across the board. It's an absolutely impossible situation. I am just one, clearly, of 34 million small business owners attempting to cope with this chaos. We don't have venture capital, publicly traded stock options, or billionaire CEOs who can go and try to curry favor and get an exemption. We just have our own families to feed and mortgages to pay. The Senate should work immediately to protect millions of small businesses from the devastating impacts of President Trump's tariffs by passing the Small Business Relief Act. Receiving a reimbursement for Trump's tariffs would be a huge step to helping us recover from this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, so much. And that's what our bill does. Our bill will get you back your $24,000. That was illegally taken from you, unconstitutionally taken from you, so that you don't have that additional burden, and the cloud will be removed as well. So Senator Hirono and I would love any questions that you might have, and same thing is true for the small business owners. Yes, sir.
Senator, I have a view that any business owners who would like to speak. The first for you, Senator, is about Chair Powell. You referenced a slowdown in consumer spending yesterday. Is it your sense that this is due to President Trump's tariffs?
100%. It's just more expensive to purchase goods, and that's running through the price for clothing, the price for food, the price for tea, the price for everything that we import. And it goes right into the price that the consumers pay. And when the Fed chair is talking about these individual areas, it is a reflection of the real life experience that consumers are having as they walk into stores all across the country. And it's for every product, not just one or two. Some are more noteworthy because they're more common, but these are individual products that ultimately cumulatively result in that higher price inflation, which is why it gets complex for the Fed, because unemployment's going up and inflation at the same time. And there's calls for interest rate cuts, but it's in an environment where costs are actually going up, and it's just the opposite of the remedy that historically would have been applied. Senator Hirono.
Basically, American families are going to end up paying thousands of dollars more for the goods and services that they use, because even service industries, of course, they rely on imported items in order to provide their services. So the widespread impact of these chaotic on-again, off-again tariffs is, I would say, there is no business that is safe. And the families, of course, are going to end up paying thousands of dollars more that they can ill afford.
Would one of the small business owners like to speak for all the rest in terms of the higher price for consumer goods?
Well, what I was going to say is, who has raised your prices on your customers? Yeah, so you have to. Personally, my expenses went up 50% because I produce in India. So a 50% increase in cost of goods, like, I have to increase my prices, right? But the one thing I want to say about that is that sort of helps from a profit margin perspective, but it does not help with cash flow, because we still have to pay all of that up front. And even if we raise our prices, eventually when we sell all of our products, we'll get some of that increase back, but we still have to come up with the cash. And, small business owners, as already mentioned, don't have venture capital.
Yeah, so you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes. You don't have to have a summa cum laude degree from Stanford Business School to understand what is happening. You just have to listen to the small business owners to see where the impact is. Question from any?
And really, press says you have a role to play in amplifying the harm, the real-life harm that this is causing, not just to our business community, but particularly small business, but to our families. So the cause and effect needs to be very clearly laid out.
Yep. Main Street is becoming Pain Street, and we have Main Street standing right in front of you right now, and they're trying to explain the pain. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I just follow up, so President Trump has argued that the tariffs are used to persuade businesses to move to American suppliers, but is this even possible for any of you guys?
No. The supply chain is not here. The type of skills to produce specific types of products, weaving, leather, textile, there's industries in other countries where there's so many resources and focus that support those industries. It's not here. It would take a decades-long reprioritization, building factories, training people, and then most importantly, creating the supply chain. Because even if we wanted to produce in the U.S., we're importing everything from overseas, and then who's gonna make them?
Yeah, please go.
So as a tea manufacturer, 100% of my product is grown overseas across the country, about 10 different countries. You can only get Darjeeling tea in Darjeeling, India. You can only get Dragonwell in China. If we were to grow these teas here, they would be completely different. And just because you can grow them doesn't mean that it's going to taste good. As well as because I sell tea does not mean that I wanted to become a farmer. And with tea itself, the plant Camellia sinensis takes, like I said, 5 to 7 years to yield crop. So even if we started today, we still wouldn't have it, and it would still not put money in my pocket. So no, it is impossible for my product to be grown here. Yes.
I'll just add to that. For the first few years of my business, we exclusively produced in the United States, and over time, as we wanted to grow and create new and different types of products, it was impossible to do it here. We could not find fabrics that would work. We couldn't print them with the prints that we wanted. The process of creating a new design took a huge amount of time and was super expensive. And so I know very well that, yes, we can make some things here, but to move everything over here is literally impossible.
I'll just add one last point. So I speak to hundreds of importers, and they've all, none of them have came back and brought manufacturing back here. Maybe there was one product line from one importer that said that they were going to do it here. It's, as everyone is saying, it's just not possible.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. In the 5th grade at the Immaculate Conception Grammar School, when Sister Lillian put up the map of the world, she was explaining to us that it was all the tea in China. It was the coffee from Brazil. See, we live in a world where, we are dependent upon imports, but at the same time, we're exporting things to other countries, okay? So Sister Lillian was my original economics professor, and maybe we can bring her over to the Council on Economic Affairs for the White House right now, help her to explain the way in which the world worked and continues to work, from tea, to every other product that we're talking about here.
Thank you.
Okay, final question? Yeah, final question, sir.
One more question for you also. Chair Powell spoke a lot about it yesterday about the pass-through. I know you guys just raised your hands and quite a few of you had to raise prices to the brand, and you mentioned that there's some contractual stuff that you literally could not do it. So in terms of absorbing costs, like how much are you passing through versus how much are you absorbing at the moment? And do you think it'll be a one-time price increase like the Fed is hoping for? Any of you wants to know?
I mean, we're passing through a small piece because we can't raise our prices too high, and then people will stop buying them. And as Nicole said, okay, so maybe we get an extra $2 on a dress right now, but we had to pay the $24,000 already. So the question, will it be a one-time price increase? Is it a one-time tariff increase? Is it going to change? There's literally no way I can answer that question, because does anyone know what the tariff will be on Bangladesh in January? Any one person in the entire world? Nobody.
Yeah, we've done
Can you move move over here so that the cameras can hear you, yeah.
Sorry. So we've done a similar thing. We're kind of meeting the consumers halfway, so to speak. And it depends on the products, the things that are more, high in demand, the things that came in before the tariffs hit. But I'm very vocal about this with my customers, so they know. They're like, no surprise. I started talking about it in January, and we've done 2 increases, but not a 50% increase. It's been 10, 15% on most products.
Yeah, beautiful. Any other questions? And those questions have been very helpful in fleshing it out. Thank you all so much. We're gonna press hard, get it passed. Yeah, maybe.